We now turn to the At&T data breach that dumped millions of customers' personal information onto the dark web. Let's bring in ABC's Mary Alice Parks, who's in Washington. Mary Alice, what's the latest on that investigation?
Yeah, Lindsay, At&T admitting that even people's social security numbers were compromised, ending up on the dark web. And just the size of this data breach was absolutely staggering. Over 70 million account holders. That's the equivalent of 1 in 5 Americans. Now, At&T says that 90% are former accounts. The data appears to be from 2019 or earlier. At&T says they're reaching out to those former customers, resetting the passcodes for current account holders, and working with cybersecurity experts. The company says they have not identified the source yet, and that personal call history and financial information was not included. But Lindsay, of course, in February, service was impacted for many hours for many At&T customers after a software update went wrong. The company blamed that on a technical coding error. Lindsay?
All right, Mary Alice.
This is the Rebel Call Channel. Welcome to today's show. At&T confirms data for 73 million customers leaked on a hacker forum. Of course, who's the hacker? Well, it's the boogeyman, because it's always the boogeyman. These types of news stories are out there over and over and over again about data breaches, about hacking, about bank account hacks, because they're conditioning you for what is to come. Now, all the technology and all the stuff that we all have is going to be no longer necessary and no longer needed in this new infrastructure that they're trying to bring along. The new infrastructure runs on the Internet of Bodies, okay? So all the technology that you're used to having in your day-to-day life, your earbuds, your cell phone in hand, your iWatch, your Fit bracelet, all these wearables, as well as the cell phones in general, are going to be transitioned inside of you. So ultimately, it starts with a lot of these stories about hacking, about your personal data being hacked by some boogeyman that nobody knows of, who apparently just wants everybody's information. Now, what these stories will lead to are, of course, false flags involving data breaches. You'll hear more and more stories about people's bank accounts getting drained to zero because these companies out there lost your data. Thus, some guy apparently in the middle of a factory somewhere in Russia or China wanted to hack in and get all your stuff and get your personal info. Of course, they'll make it about money and everybody will believe it. But what this is ultimately about is transitioning you and making you fearful of the current technology, because again, the current tech that's in place was put in place to get you conditioned to depend and put all of your eggs in the basket of technology, right? Everything you do is through your tech. They've been conditioning you to rely on technology for decades now, and that was done by design. Ultimately now, because the end goal of that was to get the technology inside of your body. So it begins with fake hacking stories. Literal hacking stories will occur, but it won't be a boogeyman in a factory in Moscow. The hackings will occur from within. The government will shut your bank account down. The government will freeze your assets. The government will do all sorts of things to frame the civilians or set up the civilians to ultimately have to give up this current wave of technology that they're inundated with to bring in the new technology that they want you to have, which again, I believe is the mark of the beast, hacking human beings. So while I rant about this, let me show you what they've been talking about, right? So ultimately what this will lead to, hacking of people, data breaches, bank accounts being drained to zero, will get people fearful enough where they say, look, we're going to put this type of tech inside of you, okay? It's going to be you. It's going to be like, you go and you get your retina scan. Your biometrics is really what it's called, right? Your biometric data. So in other words, for those of you that don't understand what it means, right? All this stuff you've seen in sci-fi movies over the years, which they actually use now, where you have your thumb scan. They're conditioning people with that, with their iPhones, etc., right? As your passcode, to use your thumb, to use your retina, to use your facial recognition. This is all continual conditioning so that it's literally inside of you and you don't have to do any of that stuff anymore because you're the data. It's in you, and they're going to condition and market you with that as well. But ultimately, when this tech gets inside of your body, that's the end game. That's what they've been waiting for and wanting, because they want to and they have the ability to hack human beings. And you just saw the first trial run a couple of years ago where people were getting this technology put inside of them without them even having a clue about what's going on. Here's Yuval and here's Claus and here's the wicked people of the world talking about hackable humans. Ultimately, we're going from this to that.
The really big thing is hacking human beings. to hack human beings, you need a lot of biological knowledge, a lot of computing power, and especially a lot of data. If you have enough data about me and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself. And once you reach that point, and we are very close to that point, then democracy, the free market as we have, and actually all political systems, also authoritarian regimes, we have no idea what happens once you pass that point. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life, after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds, science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. So after 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are entering the era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. So does the data about my DNA, my brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective? Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go
the
to the
vaccine
test, of course.
will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable. Surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course this has a big impact on your identity.
And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year. So this fourth industrial revolution is, it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, right. Just as an example, it's you who are changed.
So again, they want to be able to hack human beings, but the only way they're going to be able to hack human beings is by being inside of you, being able to edit your genetic structure, your genetic code. And ultimately, again, that's what this is all about. But to get to that point, to get inside of you, to get you to willingly do this biometric, science experiment that they want to do on people, to get you to have blockchain embedded in you, right? Remember the stories I've covered in the past? Probably most of you don't, but I've covered many times. I probably should just start talking as if nobody's listening anymore because no one's even here anymore. So they've talked about blockchain, for those of you that don't know, being inside of people's bodies. Blockchain, of course, serves, it's crucial in the implementation of crypto and digital currency, right? So they want this stuff embedded in you and embedded in your genetic structure. And they've talked about experiments with mice and eventually human beings, and all this stuff can be done because your bulky wallet is just too difficult to carry around. And of course, we have to always be fearful of hacking. So you're going to constantly hear stories about hackings, and we have over the last couple of years, because it becomes more and more believable to people without even having a boogeyman to blame it on. The boogeyman is the picture you always see, right? A guy with a hoodie, right? You can't see his face, and he's sitting in a dark room on a computer, right? What do you think all these images about it we've seen over the years over and over and over again, right? The same like the alien invasion, where we always see the image of Aleister Crowley's Lam, the demon alien, right? They've just made up what an alien looks like, even though they've apparently never seen one. I mean, it's an utter joke, right? Same with this, right? This is the guy that we're always supposed to think of because we've had this ingrained in our minds, that when we hear of a 73 million customer leak and a hack from At&T, that it's this guy, with a hoodie on, who apparently wants all of our information, right? This gives the government ample opportunity to seize assets, to freeze bank accounts, to shut off bank accounts, to put bank accounts at zero, to steal your money. And of course, ultimately, if we're talking about global communism, what they need to do in America to bring it to its knees is not just destroy the economy by inflation, etc. There's going to be many things like this that go on where people don't have the money anymore and the banks go, we don't know what to do. I mean, somebody hacked us. So, it's a national threat now. It's a national security threat. There's nothing we could do. And everyone out there is just going to shrug their shoulders after being upset for a few weeks when they realize that their life savings is gone. The government does not care at all. Okay? This is the plan. Ultimately, everybody is going to be reset to zero. So major fake cyber attacks are going to occur, and major fake data breaches are going to occur because they're going to blame these types of attacks on these data breaches. So this story is AT&T's repeatedly denied for the past 2 weeks that a massive trove of leaked customer data originated from them and or that their systems have been breached. While the company continues to say there is no indication their systems were breached, it is now confirmed that the leaked data belongs to 73 million current and former customers. Based on our preliminary analysis, the data set appears to be from 2019 or earlier, impacting approximately 7.6 million current AT&T account holders and approximately 65.4 million former account holders. Okay, so the company further says that the security passcodes used to secure accounts were also leaked for 7.6 million customers. So ultimately, they're going to use this type of fear. And that's why you've heard this stuff over the years, right? How many times have you heard driving in your car or listening to the radio or just an ad on a podcast about your identity being stolen, right? This has been conditioned into us for a while now. Oh, get Norton Security. Oh, your ID's been stolen. Well, get this to protect yourself. It hasn't been about selling these things to you. It's been about conditioning you into being fearful that somebody's going to get your social security, somebody's going to get this stuff and be able to hack you and do these things. Now, whoever that, they want you to believe it's a boogeyman, but that'll obviously be the government who's doing this deliberately, because what they ultimately want is for you not just to be dependent on technology like you are now. That was the first phase. The next phase is for you to embed this technology into your genetic code, thus altering you being a human being. Thus, what the Bible talks about of the mixing of iron in clay in the book of Daniel. In chapter 2, verse 43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Okay, mixing with technology into the human flesh, into our bodies, changing who you are. That's what Klaus Schwab was talking about, changing who you are. Okay, so ultimately what you saw is the plan to get you off of regular tech and into what will be real hackable tech. Because they'll tell you by getting this technology that nobody could seize your bank account. Nobody could take your ID because it's you. It's literally you. So if somebody was going to go and steal or do something, they would have to have your dead body in their hands. And with all the CCTV cameras and every other thing in the police state that we're going to be living in, the surveillance state, it wouldn't be feasibly possible, right? They're going to get you to get to that point of wanting that technology. Thus, people will ignore all the other things that I played in that montage, where the ultimate goal is to be able to hack human beings. And they have the ability to do it. Now they need to convince you into it. Now they need to dupe you into it. And that's what stories like this are for. It starts with data breaches. It starts with conditioning, like in Leave the World Behind, turning technology off. AT&T had the phone shut off a few weeks ago. Totally planned and done by design. Right? Happened at 3 a.m. By 6 a.m., every news affiliate in the country was reporting on it. Right? Nobody thinks about how these stories get on their desk so fast, how it all circulates so quick, because it's all scripted. One script goes out to each station all at once, one button, boom, there it is. Here's the script. Here's your lead-in for the day, right? Instead of like, oh, well, we're the news station in local Illinois, so we're going to cover the local Illinois news. No, you're not. You're going to cover what you're told to cover, because we need to get this ingrained in people's minds so we can give them a false perception of reality, thus be able to manipulate people into what we want to manipulate them into, right? So the data breach stuff is going to continue. They'll be able to do false flags with this, which means they'll be able to shut off like my and your bank accounts if we have digital bank accounts, okay? They'll be able to do a lot. But ultimately, it's about removing what they've conditioned you into, right? So think about this again. We've become so dependent on technology that, like that scene in Leave the World Behind, which I've used many times.
All the roads are blocked. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do right now. I can barely do anything without my cell phone and my GPS. I am a useless man.
When everything's shut off and the phones don't work, the guy says, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to live. I don't even know how to go up the road without my phone, because he's become so dependent on the phone. That's been the point, to make you so dependent on the technology, not just obsessed with the technology where it's part of your day-to-day routine and your life, as you can see if you go out somewhere. And some of you may be the same way now, not even realize it. People are always looking down at their phones, right? Okay, that's the problem. That means you're dependent on your phone. And people are like, I don't need my phone until it's gone, right? Then you start out walking around and you're back in the physical realm. You're out of the digital realm, okay? Or the spiritual realm, so to speak. And then you're looking around and you don't know, you're like, oh, okay, fine, that's fine. I don't need my phone. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, here's some dirty water, but I need to clean it because I need water to live. And I've only got about 24 hours before I start suffering from dehydration. And you're like, how do I clean the water? Can I drink ocean? How do I distill ocean water? Let me get my phone. Oh, wait, I don't have my phone. See, all my knowledge is in this beehive, this hive mind internet, which you've become a part of. Now you don't know how to do any of this stuff anymore because all the answers you've been looking for have been inside of here, right? So ultimately, when there's a fake shutdown and those types of things, when the grid comes back on, when everything goes back and they say, hey, you know what? We had a major hack. We can't get hacked again, and all this other crap that they'll use to convince people into this type of technology. People will be clamoring for it because they want to be able to function again. They will be able to function without their technology. So in other words, the last 20 years or so, we've gone from just, a phone call when you're out, you're lost, you're looking for a friend, a text message. Okay, it's a new way to communicate, texting instead of calling. It's easier. Then I don't have to pick up in the middle of the night. I could just text from my bed. And then it's moved into every single decision you make or every single thing you're thinking about, you're putting into the internet, right? Well, ultimately, the plan has been to get you from that to inside of you. So all the things you depend on, seeing your screen interface, seeing through your Oculus, okay? So ultimately, it's about the mixing of iron and clay. And these stories start there and they end with hacking human beings. You see, nobody out there is going to believe that they have the ability to hack a human being. Hence, a lot of the narcissism we're experiencing, right? They can't hack you. Why would they do that, right? There's some stories out there, circulating with this AT&T story where people are going, I don't care if my data breach, there was a data breach about me and somebody hacked into my stuff. I'm not hiding anything.
Over 70 million AT&T customers' data compromised.
I don't think I have too many secrets to hide, if anything, being put on the dark web.
That's the mindset they want everyone to have, right? I don't care, whatever. And then they go, well, this is what we need to do now. We need to embed it in you so you don't have to worry about it anymore. And they'll go, I don't care. I'm not hiding anything from the government. I'll have this in me. You won't even be human anymore. You'll be a hackable human. But they'll be they'll have blindfolds on. Just like the people who are still going and getting boosted. They're doing it some of them are just doing it to be stubborn, to say, look, I'm right, I'm fine, I got another one, right? They don't even know what they're doing. So when you create a society of egotistical narcissists, and then, the government starts pushing this type of stuff, they're still going to be blind. They're like, right, they're going to hack us, even though they're telling you. Ultimately, it's about hacking humans. But first, they got to get the technology inside of you, right? So the first way to do it is to scare you with all these cyber threats, cyber attacks, your personal identity attacks, and then say, look, when it's embedded in you, you don't have to worry about this no more. And people go, but it's going to take a big false flag first, and that is coming. This is not the false flag, okay? This is just another fake story about data breach. The simple fact is that in global communism, corporations are running the entire show, okay? So all of our data, the government has, it doesn't buy and sell it. All these corporations have our data. They know what we're doing. They listen to what we're saying, okay? They already got all that stuff. So the data breach happens on a day in and day out basis. That's why you get soliciting phone calls all the time. There's a lot of older people and they're like, why are these people calling me? Right? Well, when you sign up for one thing and you give your phone number to one person, that's all it takes. Because it just gets shot out to all these corporations. That's all they do. And people are like, okay, I guess, well, what do you think? That your social security is really secret? No, it's not. So now it's going to take a big false flag event to scare people into getting this technology embedded in them. And it's going to be more than one, and it's coming. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.